Hi all, this is a return to my almost 17-year-old Compaq desktop PC. Now, as I said in one of the earlier videos, I've replaced the CPU, which was Amd Athlon 64 single core, with a dual core, which is the 4400 Plus model. Now, there wasn't many dual core CPUs released for that socket, and I think the highest was a 4800, so the 4400 is probably the next best thing. So what I'm going to do is I'll start this machine up and run a few games, and as part of that I've loaded up Steam, and I'm going to run some of the more or less taxing games just to actually see if this PC can run a few of the more recent games. Now, I couldn't get Windows 10 64-bit installed on this machine, so what I've done is I've installed Windows 7 64-bit, because some of those games won't work with the 32-bit version of Windows 10, which I've got installed on another drive, and I will also start that up later on a later video and show you what results we get. Right, so let's start up this machine and get some recent games running, hopefully. So before I get into some gaming benchmarks, I thought you'd like to see a few graphical tool benchmark results. So for Valley, we get a score of 614, and for Heaven we get a score of 458. It's on the maximum resolution, which is 1920 by 1080, and the low quality preset. And I also ran a few legacy benchmarks, and the results for those is 3D Mark 2001 17220, 3D Mark 2003 18247, 2005 3D Mark 11328, and finally for 2006 3D Mark 6780. So if you've got a few retro builds, maybe run those benchmarks rather than Valley or Heaven, which would make more sense because they're a lot less taxing on the system. As with past videos on this machine, I'm recording on an external camera, so obviously what I can see is a lot better than what this camera is picking up. But if you can't see the frames per second, I will talk through the performance of each game as I run it. Okay, so I'm going to start up a few games just to see what this machine can do with this upgraded CPU. First up, we've got Black Squad. Now, with these games, I'm going to set everything to the minimal spec, just to give this machine a chance. And at the moment, with no other characters on the screen, it's not even reaching 20 frames per second. So I'm sure that's just going to be unplayable really if action starts happening. So I'll see if I can get some players on the screen. Yeah, it's not even getting 20 frames per second, so I mean it's okay, but if you can live with that, then go for it. Right, so that's Black Squad. So onto CSGO. Now I've got the Steam frames per second counter going in the top left, and at the moment not a lot going on. It's above 20, it's even nudging 25 at various points, sometimes even nudging 30, but that frame rate's all over the place at the moment. So I'm sure when a lot more characters start moving on the screen, that's going to go down even more, even getting above 30 occasionally anyway. But as it stands, I suppose if you can live with it, then again, like similar to Black Flag, it's sort of playable, I suppose. Right, so that's CSGO. Crysis up next. Now I've got this game on the maximum resolution and the low preset, so maybe experiment and see which is best for you, either this resolution and low, or maybe nudge the resolution down and say put the quality up to medium. But at the moment we're getting mid 30s, pushing 40, so I'll just get a few characters moving on the screen. But you shouldn't have too much difficulty playing this game, whichever combination of settings that I've just mentioned that you choose. Notice the characters are sort of pointing upwards. Oh, there's just fired a flare. The first time I noticed this game, one of the guys, as I started shooting, fired a flare, and I think that was to pull in reinforcements. So maybe if you shoot that guy to start with, you won't get so many extra characters on the screen. Right, I'm digressing a bit. That's Crysis. So up next, it's Paladins. There's quite a bit of stuttering there, so I'm just going to try and get a few characters moving on the screen. So at the moment we're getting just above 20 frames per second with not much going on, but there's occasionally quite a major stutter in this game every now and again. So I'll just get to the main game area. So yeah, you can live with that irritating stutter, and you can play it, but it's not a great gaming experience, unfortunately. Okay, so that's Paladins. Team Fortress up next, and I think out of all these freebie online games, this is probably less taxing on the system, because going outside, just trying to find an action area, we're getting almost 50 frames per second, and it's on the highest resolution, and some of the settings, quality settings, are not even on the lowest. So I'll try and get some characters on the screen, and I think as long as you get above 30 on a machine like this, then that's more than enough. A few stutters. I think it's now started to show a few problems a bit, because that's actually getting below 20 frames per second with some action going, more characters going on the screen. So yeah, this is it's probably the most playable freebie game so far, actually. Right, so that's Team Fortress 2. So on to Valorant. At the moment, with not too many characters moving on the screen, we're getting mid-20s. I mean, it's not touching 30. It's not stuttering too much, so I suppose if you can live with that. I spoke too soon. Once I went outside, it just stuttered quite a lot. So I don't think this game's really that playable. It's just too erratic, that frame counter. I mean, you can get by, but as you saw, there's a few major stutters in this game. Right, so that's Valorant. Right, on to Realm Royale now. And at the moment, indoors with not too much going on, we're not even touching 20 frames per second, despite my best efforts setting all the quality to the minimum, and having a few changes applied to the resolution. So I'm sure if you get more than one enemy character on the screen, that frame rate's just going to go down too much to not make this a very playable game. Right, okay, so that's Realm Royale.